The night was calm, and the moon sat high above the village, round and silver like an ancient drum. Crickets sang in the tall grass, and a soft breeze carried the scent of palm oil and river water. Under the great tree at the edge of the compound, 5 children sat in a half-circle around the fire. Their faces glowed orange, their eyes bright with curiosity. Teacher Okoro sat before them, his walking stick resting beside a wooden stool. The fire crackled between them like a heartbeat. He cleared his throat, his voice slow and heavy with memory. "Tonight," he said, "I will not tell you a folk tale. Tonight, I will tell you what I saw. A story from Port Harcourt, the city that once trembled like a leaf in the wind." The children leaned closer. The night seemed to listen.
It was 1968, Teacher Okoro began. The war had reached our shores. Port Harcourt was no longer the city of laughter and trade. The air carried the taste of gunpowder. The rivers that once brought fishermen now carried families fleeing for their lives. He looked into the fire, seeing not flames, but memory. I was a boy then, just 12. My mother wrapped my sister in cloth and tied her to her back. My father hid our documents inside an empty rice bag. We ran, not knowing where safety was, only knowing we must keep moving. He paused, his face lit with sorrow. The soldiers came through Diobi and Borokiri. Houses burned, churches filled with cries. Some ran to Bonny Island, others hid in mangrove swamps. The sound of war was everywhere. Bullets, thunder, the screams of a city losing its breath. The children said nothing. The fire cracked again, louder this time. "But even in fear," the old man said, "some stayed. Not everyone could run." He raised a finger, slowly, as though pointing to invisible faces. Women hid strangers in their homes. Fishermen ferried refugees across the creeks at night, risking their lives to save others. Priests and teachers turned schools into shelters. One woman I remember, Mama Ebi, cooked for both sides of the war, feeding whoever was hungry, soldier or not. She said, "Hunger has no uniform." He smiled faintly. That was courage. That was Port Harcourt, not only a city of oil, but of heart.
When the guns fell silent, the city was quiet in another way, Teacher Okoro continued. The markets were gone. The streets were scarred. We came back to homes that were no longer homes, yet the people returned. They swept the ash, rebuilt the roofs, reopened the stalls. He sighed deeply. Some never found their loved ones again, but the living carried on. They built schools, churches, and laughter again, even if it sounded a little broken. The spirit of Port Harcourt refused to die. The fire sank lower. The children's faces glowed softly in its light.
Teacher Okoro leaned forward, his eyes catching the flicker of the last flame. "My children," he said quietly, "remember this. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the will to stand when the world has fallen." He pointed toward the faint glow of the moon. "Port Harcourt taught me that, when everything was gone, the people still shared what little they had. When darkness swallowed the sky, they kept one another alive. That is the true story of our city, not of war, but of endurance." He looked at each child in turn. "One day, you will tell your own stories. When you do, tell them truthfully. Tell them so the world will know that even in the ashes, Port Harcourt burned bright." The last flame flickered, then faded. The children sat in silence, hearing only the wind and the whisper of their own hearts. Above them, the moon drifted higher,